Meg? How you doing? Can you hear me?
Chilling, man. Yeah, I can hear you good.
All right, guys. Welcome to EHoops Performance, live from Austin, Texas, where we talk about basketball. We talk about sharing professional and college players' experiences, giving advice on, how to be a good student athlete, how to better improve your game mentally, physically, and just play the game with passion. And today we have a special guest, Meighan Simmons. She's a native Texan from San Antonio. She's a former UT, University of Tennessee, Lady Vol, and she's a WNBA player, and she's playing basketball. She's kicking butt overseas in Israel right now. Meighan, thanks for jumping on the show with me today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anytime.
All right. So let's just kick it off. The first, let's just tell everybody, I want them to know, your story, who you are, and just the things that you've done that have gotten you to this place of playing professional basketball overseas. So whatever you want to share from, growing up, middle school, high school basketball, and college. You can go real brief, but
right.
let's introduce you.
Yeah. Well, I'm originally from Texas. Born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I can say at 6 years old is when I first picked up a basketball, and I think growing up, I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters. Let me not leave that out. And growing up in a big family, cousins, uncles played in the NFL. Just coming from an all-around athletic family, and growing up watching my brothers be outside playing basketball, my older brothers. I was a cheerleader before I even started playing basketball. And that was, of course, moms always try to get you into it. No, I'm not saying that again, man. but no, I'll say it again. But no, when I was to put me in, what people consider the girly sport.
Yeah.
Leading, I didn't like it, and that's where it all started. So once basketball and football, but they played basketball as well. And once my dad saw me pick up a basketball, he's like, okay, if my boys are not going to play, then at least I'm going to have a daughter that play. And I've always wanted to, fulfill the dream of, being a professional. And ever since I picked up a ball, like my focus was just to be the best that I can be. And since then, it just was up. Nice. So I don't really like to talk about the accolades part because it comes with the hard work,
right?
Should I say? And I don't like to talk about it because what I've done in the past is something that I did in the past. I was on a high. My focus was like completely different. At a young age, being the smallest thing out there on the court, you have a point to prove because everybody expects the basketball player to be big or female to be tall, muscular, strong. I felt like I was strong, but I didn't look the strongest out of everybody out there on the court. And I think just the way I grew up, just being forced, being tough, and being raised in a military family, it allowed me to push myself past my comfort zone and just being able to just be myself and grow into the athlete and the basketball player and the woman that I have become today. So just everything that has happened has, definitely molded me, shaped me into being who I'm supposed to be, who God ordained me to be, while still using the gift that he play the game of basketball and share it with the rest of the world. So, yeah, like my story with that brief story.
You brought up a good point that some players that also are smaller do have confidence issues. And it's not always about the size. It's not always about the size. It's about the skill and how you apply it in the game and the value you bring. So my question is, when did you get to a point where, you know, size was not an issue for you mentally?
I think at about maybe 9 or 10 years old, I had a AAU coach that used to tell my parents, you know, she was never going to be anywhere. She was never going to go anywhere with the game of basketball. She's too small. She was never going to be able to achieve that goal of trying to get to the professional level. Because at that time, nobody really talked about the professional women's game as much. There were women out there who were achieving that. There was a professional world out there for women. And I think that just that mentality and having a coach that told my parents that, when they told my parents that, my dad was like, oh no, we taking it to a different level. So that's when training became even more intense. That's when my dad was even harder on me, because he's like, now you really have something to prove. You really got to work on you. Even though you're small, you can be faster.
Mm-hmm.
You can, you know, shoot the ball better. You can get to the basket, that type of stuff. So things changed. And ever since then, I think just not even focusing on my size and just focusing on my abilities, my strengths, even the things that I considered a weakness, I actually turned those things into strength and allowed myself to continue to work on them and grow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
cool. You still there?
yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. And I love where this conversation is going, because you know, a lot of times when I talk to kids, one of my biggest like things that I want to share with them and help them understand is to be self-aware. And, you know, starting at a young age, you have to start young, but then it takes a while. It took me to about a year, right? And so by awareness, I mean, like saying, be aware of your strengths and develop those. And also for be aware of those, you know, and then develop those a little bit more too. But I'm sure that you've worked on your strengths, you've worked on your weaknesses to a point where they're no longer weaknesses. But you have worked on your strengths probably a lot more, because that's your foundation. That's what you do naturally, you know? And that is what sets you apart. That's what sets anybody apart, is for them to show their strengths. So I'm glad you touched on that. How did you, you might have said it already, but how did you figure out what they were? Like, how did you notice that as you were playing middle school, high school, even college? I mean, we're still developing in college. How did you say, you know, boom, 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 these are my strengths and I want to develop those deeper or even wider?
Well, you said middle school. As some people may not know, I didn't go to middle school. I was on a military base, come from a military family, and being on base, you go from 6th grade into a school where it's 7th grade to 12th grade. And it could be like maybe 200 or 300 kids that's there, and the graduation rate is like, you know, 80, 90%, but there's only like maybe 120 to 200 kids graduating. And I think the time that I learned my strengths was actually going to school, to a junior high school, practicing it with as a 7th grader with 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, and being able to play against them and to challenge myself to find that strength. And once I did, you know, it pushed me to a different level where I was like, okay, yeah, well, maybe scoring is my strength, but I'm also able to get out, steal the ball, you know, get rebounds, push the tempo, that type of stuff. But my strength, it turned out to be, was scoring, because being smaller than everybody, you may not be able to get down in the post and bump with everybody, but you got to be able to do something else. It could be ball handling. It could be getting other people involved. But for me, it was scoring. And that was my dad's, you know, push for me, was just to be that scorer, to do something else besides just being in people's grill and being a net on defense. He wanted me to play bigger, and he felt like adding the scoring to it, besides being a net on defense, the scoring to it would just create a bigger picture or have me become a bigger threat than just, being one-sided.
Okay.
So yeah.
Nice. Let's jump over to high school, probably junior year. Jump over to recruiting a little bit. Maybe as a freshman, take us through maybe getting your first offer, your feelings, how you were feeling, your emotions, on up through, hey, I'm choosing to go to the University of Tennessee.
Right. My freshman year, and I tell this story all the time because everybody has their process, their story that they can, tell. But nobody really knows, like, what I went through coming in, as a freshman in high school. Mm-hmm. I had a coach who did not believe that AAU was as competitive as high school basketball.
Okay.
But in my mind, I grew up off of AAU basketball. You see what I'm saying? At that time, AAU was all that mattered. If you could play AAU ball, you can play anywhere.
You can ball.
And my mentality, so my mentality was, if I can play the best and beat the best at that time, I can beat anybody. Or better yet, if I could beat my brothers who were bigger, stronger, heavier than me, I could beat anybody. And I think at that time it was like, man, just my freshman year, like I said, going back, my freshman year, my coach didn't believe that. And my mom, I remember us having a meeting with our coach, and she told my mom, she said, yeah, well, I don't know. We may have to put her in JV athletics first. And my mom told her, like, you're not going to do that. I won't allow you to do that, And as a mom, sometimes you see the gift in your child and you want to challenge them. So you give them the opportunity to tell that person who's taking the gift that they birthed into the world and say, she's bigger than what you think. You may see the image of her, but she's bigger than what you see.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So going through all that, my freshman year, it was a crazy year. We made the playoffs my first year. Second year, we got to state. We got to state 3 years, my sophomore year, junior year, senior year. And then recruiting process came. But during this time, I met Clarissa Davis-Wrightseal, who was my AAU coach. And props to her, because she was the first woman that I knew that played at the professional level. And to be coached by her, it was a blessing, because it was like, dang, I'm being around somebody that I had made up in my mind, this is where I was going to go. And she just so happened to be a part of the first group of women who played when the WNBA was first created. And because of that, I saw things, I learned from somebody who became my idol. She became somebody that I looked up to and I trusted, like, hey, you've been in this experience, you understand what it takes. I just want to learn from you. Whatever I can get from you, I'm going to take it. I'm going to be a sponge. And through AAU, I was in a situation of playing some of the big tournaments, Boo Williams, all those things, Nike Nationals, all that other stuff. So we ended up going to those tournaments, and I got seen by any college you can think of, from D1, D2, all the different schools. Kansas State was the first team that recruited me, first college that recruited me.
Okay.
And at the time, my mom was like, Megan, you got your first letter. As a kid, you're not thinking, and this was 7th grade that I received my first letter.
Okay.
And but during that time, as a kid, all you want to do is play basketball. You're not even thinking about college yet, because your parents, at the time, my parents went to school, but they didn't go to school for athletics. So they didn't know what it meant to be a student and an athlete at the same time. So I didn't know who to really talk to besides my AAU coach, but it wasn't too far-fetched for her. So I think that going through that process, getting those letters, long story short, it was very, very overwhelming, because I didn't understand. I'm like, okay, what is it that I'm doing so special that in the midst of what the people were saying, the people, in other words, the fans that were watching me play, what was it that they saw in me outside of the other girls who were bigger, taller, maybe even faster, that type of stuff? What was it that they saw in me? And at the time, nobody could ever tell you what they saw in you. All they could say was that they were interested.
Yeah.
Because it's a process. Everything is a process. So then it came down to my top 5 schools, which was North Carolina, Maryland, Duke, Tennessee, and LSU. That was my top 5. So
nice. Yep.
I ended up having a Duke home visit. The coach, at the time, I didn't know too much about Duke. I just knew that the team was good. I watched Lindsey Harding, Jasmine Thomas, all those people. I watched all of them play. So I'm like, okay, those players are good, but did I want to go there? I had to figure that out. I had to find some balance. But fast forward to my junior and senior year, when coaches can actually start communicating with you, it was almost like, it was so overwhelming because every time I came home from school, I had a phone call or I had a voicemail. And my mom was like, okay, Meighan, you need to call these people back. You need to call these people back. You need to talk to them.
Yeah, I remember that.
And what people don't know about me was I was so shy when it came to talking to people. I had to grow out of it. I was forced to grow out of it at the time. So it's like, okay, all right. My dad was like, all right, Mama, you got to talk to these people. Don't tell them what you want. Just listen to what they have to say or what their expectations of you are. You have to ask these questions. So my parents trained me to ask questions like, what can you do? What can you do for me as far as school, as far as playing? Are you going to take care of me? That type of stuff. My parents were interested in that. So, and then it came down to going on visits, LSU, Tennessee, okay? And at the time, that was when Candace Parker and the Lady Balls were like big. It was just them in Connecticut. LSU. Those were the only 2 teams that I could see on ESPN that were dominating. And when I saw Tennessee and I saw Candace play, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just keep watching them play because I just love the way that they play. Period. Together, I enjoyed watching Pat interact with them and everything. So it got down to the point where I had Van Chancellor and Pat in my high school gym. And the day that happened was the day that I can say, this is some serious stuff. Like, I got to get myself together. That you never really know how serious it is until a coach is in your face. And it's in the middle of being in front of everybody. It's not just you and them. It's you, them, your teammates, and then your high school coach. To the point where my high school coach didn't even know what to do. When she saw Pat and she saw Van Chancellor, she's like, okay, wait a minute. Now let me look like I know what I'm doing so I can give them what I have. Okay, which was me at the time. So they wanted to see how I reacted to her, how I reacted with my teammates, all that stuff. And then once I went on my visits, LSU was good. It was a blessing. Van Chancellor was awesome. But it was just going to Tennessee. I felt more at home. Because we didn't go out to eat all the time on my visit at Tennessee. We didn't.
Okay.
We were at Pat's house. Pat cooked, or she'd have food catered. And she'd go, oh yeah, I made some homemade ice cream, like this, being around her dogs, just being in her house. It was more personal for me. It wasn't a show. It wasn't a show for me. It was just, I want you here, regardless of what people think. And at the time, Tennessee, I don't think Tennessee even had scholarships at the time before they even started recruiting me. And it wasn't until I got on Candace's AAU team, I think it was like maybe the year before my senior year. We went to Japan, California, all that, and she ended up talking to Pat and saying, like, if you have not been recruiting this girl, you need to.
Okay, cool.
And ever since then, it was on the up and up from there. And when Pat called me, it was like, my mom was like, Pat's on the phone. And at first I was like, wait, I was like, Pat, who? You know,
You
I'm
know
like, Pat, who? You know? And I was pretending like I didn't know. And I was pretending like I didn't know because I was so shocked that Candace did that for me.
Yeah.
And the same person that was being talked about as a child, oh, you're too small. You'll never go anywhere. That type stuff. I thrived off of that because it was like, dang, I got all these people saying this about me, but yet, guess what? I was being set up by an AAU coach that was a professional all the way around. Life, like on the court, off the court, it didn't matter. She was a professional. To then fast forwarding to getting all these letters from these different schools to the point where it came down to 2, and then it came down to 1. And that was it. And after I went on my visit, had a phone call with Pat, and I can remember it to this day. And she was saying that, excuse me, she was saying that, well, how about we put, because I was expressing to her about my faith in God and things like that. She was like, how about we put my faith and your faith together, and then we go from there. When she said that, that was enough. That was enough for me. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I got to go on this visit, whatever. So I had to make a decision. When I made that decision, it was like, okay, so how am I going to do this? How am I going to tell one school no and turn around and say yes to somebody else? And it was so hard that I cried. To this day, I remember I cried. I was like, I don't want to call LSU and tell them no. I don't want to tell them no. But I did. I had to. Because sometimes you have to close a door on somebody else to walk into another door that's going to provide you with so many more opportunities, bigger and better opportunities for you, just because of the name alone. And I can remember when I made my decision, to finish up, when I made my decision, I distinctly remember having a dream where I was playing, and when I tell you, I was sweating in my dream, and I was like, what is wrong? So next thing I know, I'm running down the court, and Pat, all I see is me and Pat, and she calls a timeout. And as she calls a timeout, it's just me and her. It's everything. Everybody else, it's a huddle. Everybody else is there, but I can't see their numbers. Everybody else's numbers are blurry, and it's just me and her. And all I remember in my dream was her telling me she's going to get the ball, and that's it. She drew up a play, and that's it. And I remember just hitting a game winner in my dream. And after that, I woke up the next morning, I said, Mom, that's it. I got my AA.
Answer.
That's it. I'm going to Tennessee. That's it. And that's how I made my decision. And when I made my decision, I felt like that was the best decision in my life, period, for recruiting. Recruiting wise, coming down to 1, man, it was just a blessing. It was just a blessing all the way around.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story. So is it true that, when you're getting recruited, high performance players like yourself, you're getting all these letters, it's fun, and then it does get overwhelming, you said that. But would you agree that it's true when you finally get to a place of knowing your decision, like you said, it was an easy choice? Because, after you do those visits, after you talk to the coaches, after you talk to the players and you see them and you spend time with them, things will become clear. Because when you have your 5 visits, it's a little cloudy. Like, you don't know. Because then when you go visit people and things start to become clear a little more, right? And then you get to those last 2, now it's cloudy again. But I know for me, it was cloudy, and then kind of the same deal. It was between University of Texas and LSU, and I had to say no to LSU too. UT
and LSU. UT and LSU.
Man, it was just like, oh, how am I gonna make this decision? And one day I woke up. I didn't have a dream, but I woke up. I was like, it's Texas for me. It's Texas.
It's Texas. Yeah.
LSU was up there. LSU was up there. But I just felt it. I was like, okay, Texas is it. And for the high school players that are going to watch this, and you're getting recruited, it's gonna come. That time is gonna come. Making your decision, it might take all up until whatever the last day it is to sign, but you will be clear, right? I think
Right.
I think when I was going through that, I was like, am I ever going to be able to? And yes, I would tell them, yes, you will be able to. At some
Right. And it's a full, like when I say it's like a full process,
mm-hmm.
sometimes even when I go and I talk to certain girls, the girls who are getting prepared, or once you become a freshman, I think now in the time that we're in with women, some girls drop out of playing sports because they don't feel it. They're like, well, dang, women are not getting the recognition that we're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, you being an athlete separates you even more than you think, because there's so much more that goes into an athlete that helps you turn into that woman that you say you want to be, because of the
mm-hmm.
struggle, because of the mental instability sometimes about you believing who you really are and what you're really supposed to be doing. It helps you make that decision. So when it comes down to deciding your future, when it comes to basketball and where you want to go, don't just go somewhere because you see your best friend is going to this school and you feel like y'all play so well together. No, because life isn't about you being around people who are comfortable. No, you're not supposed to be comfortable. You're supposed to be uncomfortable, because if you're not uncomfortable, you're not going to be able to grow. You're not going to be able to be able to set yourself apart from the people that you thought was your best friend to the people that now who are meant to be your best friend. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be able to put all that stuff aside. Parents are good too. Parents can help you make the decision, but don't just make the decision and your parents, well, I like this school, I want to be here, I want you to go here because the colors look nice. No, it's not about that. It's about the coach, how they're going to treat you. Are they going to love you while you're there? Are they going to be that other mother or father figure to help you and shape you? If they're not, and they're just there to say, okay, well, I like your talent, but I may not even play you in your last 2 years. No, you want to be with somebody who's going to be committed to making you better on and off the court. Period.
Awesome. I agree with that. You talked, when you were talking about Coach Clarissa and the time that you played with her, you touched on, you said you were a sponge and wanted to soak everything up. Talk a little bit about wanting feedback, handling feedback, which is being coachable, because a lot of the young players don't know how to take feedback, right? How to take it, and then how to go get it. Like I'm trying to be the best I can be fast, right? So I need to go be open to asking that coach, this coach, that coach, you know?
Right.
Talk a little bit about that.
I think one thing, speaking from experience,
mm-hmm.
when you have a coach who's been in that realm of professionalism, mm-hmm. not just on the court, but off the court, if he knows everything that it takes, sometimes you may just have to take that bullet from her. You have to. Because then if
mm-hmm.
you don't, that's like saying, I don't give a daggone about the golden nuggets that you're giving me. I'll
mm-hmm.
take some silver or some bronze over here
mm-hmm.
instead of taking gold.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Because that gold is what's going to continue to make you wealthy as you grow and you become the person that you're supposed to. That's it. But for me, taking the criticism, because in your mind as a kid, you think because you may be better than everybody else, that you're not supposed to take anything from anybody.
Right.
But that's where it stunts your growth, because you don't want to take the lesson into what somebody is trying to teach you. You're just taking it as, oh my God, they're just getting on me for no reason. I feel like I'm doing everything right. No, you're not necessarily doing everything right. Sometimes it's going to take you to take a step back and say, let me reevaluate, or take a moment to process everything that she said before reacting. Because if you think about it, what do you see when girls with coaches now? The coach may say something bad and they'll take it and be like, oh my God, she's attacking me. Let me go and call my mommy. I'm just gonna go and cry about it. No, it's not about crying about it. It's the fact of sometimes you have to take it and say as, okay, this coach is really trying to make me better. Or put it like this, and I know you got this from Coach Carissa too. If the coach ain't saying nothing to you, you got a problem.
You better watch out.
But if they are saying something to you, there's a reason why. They're either trying to make you better, or they're just telling you something because they see something in you that they did back then that's going to help you. And then if not, if you don't want to take that, then it's almost like saying, I really don't care about the gold that you're giving me. I'm going to settle for something less, especially when you think of yourself as something more. Somebody is giving you more, but you're not accepting that as somebody is giving you more. You're taking it as somebody is making you feel less than what you are. And that's not the case. That's not the case, you know? So that's what I can say about that.
Nice. And a lot of that is that's that self-confidence and understanding what you just said, understanding that they're not trying to beat me down. They know what they're talking about. They're trying to help me. Right?
Right.
Oh.
Right.
What we got? Let's see. So you talked about, just off our conversation, I'm already off script. I told you. See, you got all these questions, but already.
Don't worry.
Well, you were talking about college a little bit, and just in your description, you were kind of qualifying your college. What can some of these girls use as qualifiers for themselves when they're looking at colleges and going to, let's say, the program as a basketball program, their winning tradition, like, you know, what the coach's philosophy is, that, and then also from the education aspect, what should they look at?
Right. I think first and foremost, you can't go anywhere without an education. You can't. So I would say, what is their graduation rate? You see what I'm saying? Are the players all graduating? Or are they, do you have players on the team who are coming before you? Are they coming out of 2 years, 3 years? They staying all 4 years? Because I've had teammates who were getting their masters in 3, and then just had a year just to play because they had 1 more year of eligibility. Okay. You see what I'm saying? So you gotta look at that. You gotta look at academics first, of course, and then secondly, you have to look at not just the winning tradition. What is the aura like? Being not just with your teammates, but being with your coaches and your teammates. You see what I'm saying? Because sometimes I think the players now, they say, oh, I like the colors, or I like the fact that they're Nike, whatever. And then when they get there, they're like, ooh wee, this coach was recruiting me. She was so nice, but now she is a complete butt. I don't like her. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. But you have to look academics, the aura of the program, how they are, how they interact with each other. And then lastly, basketball. Because at this point, when you're looking for a college, basketball comes last. It's not just about just winning and everything like that. You're gonna want to be at a school that's gonna educate you, because basketball is, like I said in the beginning, the ball's not gonna bounce 24/7. It's not. And for women, there's a bigger purpose to us that sometimes we have to think outside the box that we've been put in when we play just basketball. We have to think bigger. So we got to be able to have some type of education where if we had kids, we had the opportunity to educate them, not only educate them, but be able to take care of ourselves too, or our families when we decide to have them. So just education, aura of the program, and then basketball last. Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of education, I'll let you get a sip. What did you study in college? Did you have some major?
I studied psychology.
Say it again.
Okay, so I started sports management. That's what I
Okay.
started with. Okay. My freshman year, that's what I wanted to get into because, you know, everybody, I was kind of going off what everybody was, all the athletes. Okay, I'm gonna be in sports management.
I know.
But you know, so I wanted to try it, but with how everything that was at the time, everything that was happening, I was like, okay, now I gotta have all these credit hours. Like, when am I gonna get the time to do this when we practice twice? We're in the morning. I got class all day. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, dang, I don't know if I can do. I don't know. So my sophomore year, I changed my major, and I switched up to psychology. And I felt like that was, I think, one of the better decisions I've made, was because at the time it was like, I love to try to understand people, not just people, but how to interact, how to understand why, you know, people do what they do, why they sometimes say what they say, what's the reason for overreacting when things could be just so much more simple rather than be complex. So I was into that type of stuff. And after I took my first class, my abnormal psychology class, I said, oh, that's it. It's a wrap. We staying with psychology. That's it.
Cool.
So I stayed with it. I stayed with it my last 2 years. It got difficult going to my senior year because everything was kind of like more in depth. And you really had to make time, like really all that other stuff. And at the time, I wasn't really a big reader, but I read what I was supposed to, and I did what I was supposed to in order to really understand everything that I was learning. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about senior year in college. Moving into your WNBA next career. Talk about the draft and what you were feeling. Just take us through maybe that day, that night.
I remember when I first got invited to the draft.
Okay.
And at the time, I was promoted as, or presented as, one of the top players to come out of college. I was presented as. And because of that, you know, in your minds, because you feel like you put 4 years of hard work in, you've done everything to become this player in order to get to the next level. And I still knew I had a lot of room to grow. So I, you know, I still worked hard. I still, you know, pushed myself, everything. I had to focus on school and things like that. But when the draft came, it was like, I was so excited, but I was just so in awe that I didn't even know how to take everything in. I didn't. And when I finally got there, it was kind of like we were on a schedule. We had to wake up. We had to be at meetings. We had to learn about the ins and outs of the WNBA, our 401k,
nice.
media, all those things. And I just remember being there, and I'm like, all right, like, I'm here. It's just an unforgettable feeling. Like, I can't even begin to like really explain in detail, because you would have to be in that moment to understand like how I felt with how it was just a whirlwind of emotions, because it was just like, I got my feet here, you know, everything. And at the time I was just like, okay, I hope, I'm praying. I'm like, okay, I hope I go in the top 12. Because when you go in the top 12, it's almost like, okay, you've reached a standard that when you're in the top 12, that's where you're going to stay. You're going to stick longer if you're in the top 12. I was sitting at the table. They were doing our makeup. We had to get dressed. We had to do our hair. And in the moment, I was just like, I was embracing everything, because I'm like, I'm being presented to the world as a professional athlete. And it was so breathtaking. I'm like, dang, man, like I'm here. Not that I made it, but I'm here. This is a place that I dreamed about being here, and I'm here. So draft night, I was so nervous. Everybody's name was being called, and I'm like, all right, my name gonna be called up next. It's gonna be called up next. And it wasn't. Just kept going. My name wasn't called. Second round, wasn't called. Came down to I was the last person sitting. Everybody else had went in the top, everybody else literally went in the top 12, and I was the last one. Because most of the time when you're invited to the draft, people think that you're going to go in the top 12 as well as me. But it didn't go that way.
Okay.
But I think I was getting more like, I don't think I was necessarily getting upset. I think what was making me upset because my mom was like, Meighan, are you okay? And in my head, I'm like, no matter what these people say or what number they say I'm going, I knew that no matter what, I was going to be a professional athlete regardless of what number they gave me.
Right.
That was just me. That was my mentality. I have a very optimistic mindset when it comes to opportunities like that. So when that happened and my name was finally called, I was just, it wasn't even a sigh of relief. It was just like, my name was called. That's all that mattered to me. It's different if you're constantly sitting there and you're the last person sitting and they don't call your name at all. It's different. Then you could be kind of upset because you're like, dang, you put makeup on me, which I don't really wear makeup. You put all this makeup on me. I'm dressed up. I'm doing everything. And I look beautiful and I feel like I'm representing myself and my family, that it's like, dang, I did all that to represent me and my family and I don't even get called. But because I got called, I was able to say, I did it. You see what I'm saying? And because I was the last one, the first person that actually hugged me was Odyssey Sims.
Nice.
Till this day, I can say that is probably one of we don't talk every day, but anytime I see her, it's always respect when I see her. To this day, she was the first person. Everybody else, like Shanae, Bria Hartley, all of those people, they still congratulated me, but it was different when I'm talking to, we from Texas. We grew up playing against each other.
Right.
But she was the first person. So that was overwhelming. But just being there, being able to hear my name called was like a blessing in itself. Because not many people could say they were in the room when you get the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm stepping into another forum of being an athlete. I'm not an amateur anymore. I'm a professional. I'm a professional now. So after that, being drafted, I got drafted to the New York Liberty. It was a crazy experience because I expected it to be hard, and I expected it for me to really push myself. And when I did, was it enough? No, because I got cut. I got cut. But it was a good opportunity because it allowed me to go back home, prepare for overseas. I had an agent. Expenditure was my agent. And I had the opportunity to go back, regroup, figure out what I needed to do to get better. And I went back in the gym. I worked 24/7. There were some days where I took off where my mind needed a mental break because I was still stuck on like, oh my God, why did I go 26 overall? But yet my name was still called.
Right.
So then I had to go, okay, well, what can I do to better my game and all that other stuff? So worked 24/7, went to Romania, and then had a great season there. Played with one of my best friends to this day, Monica Engelman, and that was a great season. Went back to the WNBA, got picked up by Seattle, got cut the day before the first game of the season. Had a great training camp, awesome training camp. I was there with Renee Montgomery at the time, who was there, Jewel Lloyd, Alicia Clark, Sue, just awesome people all the way around. Had a great training camp. I feel like I got even better at that training camp. But the coach just told me like, hey, I think you can give this one more try. And then that's when I got cut. Went to Italy. I made it my business that when I went to Italy, I was going to make the WNBA team. The next WNBA team I went to, I was going to make it. So I made it my business that when I went overseas, I had one of the best seasons of my life, and I did.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
And,
let's talk about you made it your business. Explain that to these kids today. Because I know what you mean. Because in my head, you went to work. So yeah, get down to the nitty-gritty on, what was your work ethic like? Was it daily? Was it weekly? What did you do? Did you what were your goals? How did you get down to business,
I think just started writing.
Say that one more time. Come on, internet.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, so I wrote my goals.
Wrote your goals.
My dad had always told me if there was anything that I wanted to, that I had to write that vision.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, in the church, for the people on Instagram too, when you have this idea about what it is that you see yourself, which is your vision, you have to write that vision and make it plain. In other words, write that vision you see in your head and make it as though it was, or that it is. So you have to be able to set yourself up or put yourself in a position where you already know, I'm there. You constantly have to tell yourself, I'm there. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm going to be. Mine started with a picture. Then it went to putting it into action. I had faith that I was going to do it, but faith without works is dead. So I had to put that faith that I had in myself, and I had to put it in my workout. Mm-hmm. So once I put it in my workouts, it was like, okay, my brothers were pushing me. It got down to the point where my brothers be like, Meg, what time you trying to get up tomorrow? Yeah. And it wasn't just me. At the time, my brothers knew. They're like, all right, Meg's serious about this. My brothers knew. So it was kind of like, okay, Meg is going to get up in the gym. And there were times where they didn't want to go. And I would say, hey, just come to the gym with me. Let's just play one-on-one. Let's do whatever. And at the time, my brother JR thought he was the biggest hooper in Gold's gym. Gold. But it was a time where they always came to the gym with me. And when we played, were we on the same team? No. But we used to push each other. And that's where the dudes would leave the gym, but me and my brothers would stay. We do footwork with the ladders. We get into full court drills and things like that. Getting on the treadmill for an hour and a half nonstop in a game situation, changing up speeds, all that type of stuff. Every single day, and making up in my mind. Once I made up in my mind that that's what I wanted to be in the next season after, I said, okay, every day I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to run. I'm going to get out. I'm going to run a mile every day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat. I'm going to whatever. Even I can eat healthy, but I may not gain the weight that I need to, but I know my body feels good when I take care of myself. So it took all of that. Then after that, I got to Italy. And from the first day there to the end of the season, I went at everybody. I went at everybody as if I didn't care how big you were. I didn't care how much faster you were. I was coming at you. If I needed to get a rebound, I would jump over your head just to get it. And there would be some times where players be like, first of all, can you slow down? Second of all, you are too small to be that strong. Second of all, you are too small to be that strong. I used to hear stuff like that. But it got to a point where the level of respect for how I played, it made some people realize like, okay, there's a difference in her. But when people saw that confidence in me, because I had proven to myself that I was going to be even more confident, I was able to put that into work by having a great season, being the second leading scorer, and showing another WNBA team how valuable I can really be. So next thing I know, Michael Cooper was the head coach of Atlanta. Got a call from him while I was in Italy. And we had a conversation. And I just remember him telling me, like, I just want you, when you get here, I don't want you to stop doing what you did in Italy. I just want you to bring that same energy, that same tenacity that you had here, and I want you to bring it here. And that's what happened. And at the time, I was on a training camp contract. And training camp, and you already know, training camp is not guaranteed.
No.
It's not. It's not guaranteed until maybe midway through the season, maybe after All-Star break.
Okay.
If he wasn't producing, then you're not gonna play, and they'll cut you. But my first year, I was producing really well. I was really challenging myself. I embraced going against Angel McCoughtry, Tiffany Hayes, all those people. I embraced that because they pushed me to be a better person, even taking constructive criticism from them.
Yeah.
Like, man, come on. Like, I need you to do this. This is what you can do. I need you to keep doing it, right? So that happened. I made the team, all of that. And went back to Poland. Had a good season in Poland. Got re-signed back to Atlanta.
Okay.
But once I got re-signed back to Atlanta, midway through the season, I got cut around like maybe right after All-Star break or right before All-Star break. And, you know, I like to this day, I didn't know what the exact reason was. And sometimes it's business, which I understood. And because of that, I was okay with understanding, like, now I'm like, this is what happens in the WNBA. It's a business. And sometimes you can't control what people's mindsets are when it comes to their business. Sometimes you just got to deal with it. And maybe that's a way, and I've always put it like this, maybe it's a way of God separating me from that, because there's more to me than just that. Because I did it, I achieved that goal. So now maybe I need to take it to another place. So guess what? I got the opportunity to play overseas. So now I do this consistently where I can show it outside of me being in the States. I can go out into another country and just be able to say, like, hey, I did this. This is what I did. And I'm able to share it with the rest of the world, because now people know what I'm capable of just as the people in the States do. So
yes. Man. So I've been cut from a couple teams too in my career. You've already talked about it, but if you could a little bit more, or like if a kid came to you and said, you know, I got cut from the, I don't know, middle school tryouts, or I got cut from the USA, the first round tryouts of USA, you know, basketball.
Been through that too.
Yeah, right. Me too. Me too. How do you instill in them or give them confidence that it's okay and move on to the next thing, like move on to the next play? Because I think some kids, you're going to get told no. You're going to get told you're too small. You're too big. You're too slow, right?
Right.
How do you receive it, but let it go out the other ear and keep going?
Well, first of all, you can't, I would say, oh, I'm so sorry. You see what I'm saying?
Say that one more time. I think it cut out.
You can't expect everybody to be, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You can't, because not everybody is going to be like that, because you may have a parent or one of your parents say, well, had you done what I said, then maybe that wouldn't have happened. But that can sometimes tear down that person's mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because of that, what you have to do is you have to be able to take that back and think everything in the moment. What did I do? So they realize more of my value instead of letting me go. And sometimes it's not even just about what you did on the court. It's how you interacted with your teammates. Were you on time for practice? How were you talking to the coaches when they gave you constructive criticism? That type of stuff. But because sometimes we forget those characteristics of an athlete, the expectation is I'm entitled because I feel like I'm the best. So I don't have to listen to what you have to say. So, and some kids today could say, man, that team's sorry anyway. Guess what? When they start winning, while you ain't there, the only thing is you're going to say, man, y'all still sorry, but guess what? That's the only thing that you can say. Because what were you going to do? Were you going to help them? Mm-hmm. Or were you going to be, a liability to them and hold them back from what they could have been doing because of your attitude? Or because of something that the teammates didn't get along with? They didn't get along with you because of your demeanor, your attitude, all that other stuff. But I think anytime somebody gets cut or they feel like they're let go, just think of it, when you do that, just think of it as a way of God telling you, like, okay, maybe this is just not your time. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is just not it. Maybe this is not where I want you to be just yet. Yeah. And until then, you got to be able to say, all right, I'm going to work on something. I'm going to do something more. I'm going to do something more with this. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be able to, in order for it to go one ear and out the other, you still have to remain confident in yourself and not, because in life, not even just in athletics, in life, people are going to tell you no. People are going to tell you you're not worthy of this amount of money. People are going to tell you your idea sucks for a certain, project that you're supposed to do. They're going to tell you that, but you have to be able to say, you know what? I know what I'm capable of. I know my value. And when you know your value, nothing else that anybody says to you matters. You're still just going to continue to push forward.
Nice. 100%. How you put that. So do you have a favorite game from overseas? Like a game that just meant a lot to you, whether you scored, you didn't, you won or not? Like, what game stands out? Or three, because I know you played a lot of basketball, Talk about a game that really stands out, and just tell us why. We can come back to it if you need to.
No, I can say there's, and you talking about pro level?
Yes.
Pro level?
Pro.
I can say that there has been, I can say two games. There was one in Italy. There was a game in Italy where I was 2 assists shy from a triple-double.
Okay.
And I remember just being the energy. I just remember, I don't know, I couldn't even tell you what I was thinking, what I ate that day. I can't even remember, but all I remember was the feeling of just like, I don't know, it was just like, I was like a Tasmanian devil when it came to everything. Like, it was like I wanted to just go after everything. And I did. In that game, it was like I got everybody involved. I scored. I did everything. Like, I was across the stat line in every stat, I had something. It was something positive. And because of that, it allowed other people to see what I was worthy of. So the next year, I went from being in Euro Cup to being in Euro League. Mm-hmm. And Euro League was one of the top leagues overseas. Right. And it was that particular game where my agent had people from Euro League saying, like, okay, we're interested, but I want to see how the rest of the season goes. And when that happened, I just knew everything was just going to go up from there. And then my other game, I would have to say, was playing against Connecticut in my first year. I remember, I think it was a preseason game, and I didn't score a lot, but I was everywhere. And I think that at that time it was like, okay, I got to step up and I got to show what I'm capable of. And because of that, it was like, dang, so now I got to be able to do even more because the game is over. I got to do more. And that game was the stepping stone to show Michael Cooper how valuable I could be. And that game I would never forget because I was just hungry. I was like, okay, when I get in, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready, real ready. So I did that.
Okay. So if you were, let's see how I can phrase this question. For any girls who are senior year, this year right now, finishing their season, what they have the capability to go pro, go to the WNBA, or even go overseas and start their career, what is some advice that you would tell them, things to be prepared for, what to do on the court, off the court? These can be things that you wish you would have known, right, before going overseas.
I think I would have asked. I wouldn't have asked about, the money.
Mm-hmm.
I would have asked, what are the countries like?
Mm-hmm.
What are the people like? What is the culture like? Or how do you feel when you're over there? Do you get lonely? How do you deal with your loneliness? What do you eat? Like, how does the food taste? Like, when you're in America, you're eating so much different food that it's like, sometimes it can be very, very unhealthy. But when you're overseas, it's different because everything is so organic. Everything tastes different, but it's still good,
Right.
Like, and I would ask, what is there? Because in school, we learn about all these different places, middle school and all the other stuff. We learn about these different places. But sometimes you have to ask, like, what are those places really like? Have you been there? Like I'm like, for Christ's sake, I'm in Israel and I grew up on understanding this place in the Bible. And now I'm able to experience the things that have happened in the Bible. And I'm like, what in the world? Sometimes it gets overwhelming and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually here, even from being in Rome. That type stuff, I'm like, I went to Rome. Like I went to Rome. I went to Poland. I've been to Auschwitz in some of the craziest times.
That's crazy.
Like, that type of stuff. It's overwhelming and it makes you think twice. It makes you think twice about what you're really doing in your life and what you're really grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I would ask is, how do you feel when you come back? How do you feel? Do you want to immediately go back? Or are you okay with coming back home for a little bit and then going back? You see what I'm saying? Because everybody's experience is different. People get really homesick. I've gotten used to being away that I'm like, okay, this is my job. This is what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly what I have to do. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like you got to ask those type of questions so you understand, what you're supposed to be doing to help better yourself.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Did you say, so who was your agent? I think I missed it.
Teacher Pinachero was my agent.
Okay. So
yeah, she was my agent in the beginning.
Starting your career. Okay. What tips would you give the same ladies going overseas, advice on finding an agent and qualifying them? What things do you look for? And talk about just the experience of agents, because when I had no clue going overseas. All I knew was you had to get an agent to help you find a team. But I didn't know really what they were doing. I didn't know, how we would communicate. and their role,
Right.
right? So just talk about some of those things a little bit.
Right. I can say my mom used to tell me, ask Coach Carissa. Because I don't know. Ask Coach Carissa.
Yeah.
And sometimes I was afraid to ask because I'm like, oh mom, like I don't want to bother her.
Yeah.
But because I had the opportunity to take that mentorship from her, it was kind of like it was easier for me to deal with an agent or find one because I had somebody there to tell me. But I think I would say ask them what they can do for you. It's the same thing as a recruiting process when you're trying to find a school. Ask them what can they do for you, because at the end of the day, the agent, you don't work for the agent. The agent works for you. So in order for you to be able to have that overseas career that you dream of, you have to be able to say, okay, this is what I want. Where are you at in your life, first of all? Do you have crazy bills? Do you have a house? Do you have student loans? That type stuff. You got to be able to be in a financial situation that helps you while you're there and then when you come back. So you got to ask your agent, what can you do for me? I have this. This is my bio, whatever. You got to be prepared to talk to them and just tell them who you are. Like if you can't tell them who you are, they're not going to be wanting to help. They're not going to want to help you. But as long as you tell them who you are, make sure you stick with who you are and what you know about yourself to where you don't have to constantly explain who you are. You don't. Because most agents will say, well, you didn't have this good of a season, so what am I supposed to do with this? Right. But in reality, you like, not everybody has the best season. We may not average 20 points or a double-double every season. We may not. But at least the team can say to you, she's a great person. She's gonna go places. Because sometimes the stats, they matter, but then they don't. It's a matter about how you treat those people while you were there and how you're gonna treat the next group of people. Say that with an agent, just make sure you know exactly what they can do for you and what their track record is with other players. Do the players respect them? You know, can they talk to them? Are you able to communicate with them if you really need something, that type stuff? So, yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Okay, cool. I know it's late over there. We got a couple more questions.
No, you good. I'm up.
I'm up. Night owl. And what time? Share with everybody what time it is over there in Israel right now.
It is officially 1:25 a.m.
1:25 a.m. and it's 5:25 p.m. here in Texas.
Yep.
Easy. Time difference. Share with us just your, I guess maybe the week, like just a weekly schedule of how it flows for you during practice, and then you having your off day. When is that? Your game day? You know, just what's a typical week for you in Israel?
My week changes every week.
Okay.
So some days, like our off days haven't been the same since I've been here. So it's kind of
okay.
Like, but once the season starts, we play every Monday. So we normally practice every day. And then we practice literally for an hour and a half every day. Most of the time, like in the morning, I get up, I eat. Depending on how the gym schedule is, we can get in the gym, we can shoot. We can go lift at any time. So I try to focus on maintaining my body, getting a little bit of lifting in to make sure I'm still keeping my strength up. Right. Not getting too crazy big where I'm like, okay, I'm super tired, my legs are tired, but just maintaining for right now. So then that way when the season comes, I can push myself a little bit more.
Okay.
On my off days, I've gotten better with recovering. So icing, getting in the hot tub, contrasting, getting in the pool, doing some, swim workouts to make sure that I'm balancing my recovery, my active recovery, and my like full off, not do nothing type recovery. Where I'm just walking around. I'm just walking around here and there. I'll eat, whatever, may watch a movie here and there. But outside of that, really just practicing. And now, like we talked about before we started the interview, I started to get into, Forex trading, learning about that. I'm getting ready to start to do my real estate license. So I'm getting into that because I have so much time on my hands during the day outside of me practicing. I want to use my time wisely instead of kind of just allowing my mind to be so idle that I'm not thinking about the next thing. Because I'm always thinking about the next thing. I'm always thinking about so many other things that can, impact my life or help somebody else's life. So that's my typical week.
Okay. All right. So I know you're watching some shows. What shows are on your Netflix list, your Hulu list? What you watching?
Okay, so I recently watched Raising Dion on Netflix, which I thought was really good.
Okay, Raising Dion.
Raising Dion is good. I can't get away from Power. Power, How to Get Away with Murder. Greenleaf. Yeah. I watch. Ooh. I love Greenleaf.
I need to get back on that.
There's a new show on Netflix with Cardi B, T.I., Chance the Rapper called Rhythm and Flow.
Is it?
I've been watching that. And are there any other shows? Not really, but I'm excited to see Tyler Perry's new show, Sisters, on BET. Okay. I'm excited to watch that. Okay. And sometimes I kind of go back and I replay Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like in the mornings, like when I eat breakfast. And then I like to watch Girlfriends. I like Girlfriends. I'll go back and watch reruns of Girlfriends.
Okay. I love Girlfriends. Tony's my favorite. Yeah. She's a mess.
Yeah. So I would say like those shows, but literally Greenleaf, Power, and How to Get Away with Murder are my top shows right now. I have to watch those. Okay. And I'll be watching, and I do Ratchet Mondays, which is Love and Hip Hop. I watch that.
Ratchet Monday.
Ratchet Mondays. Right? But then people on Love and Hip Hop be ratchet,
No, yeah, they are. They just did the finale or like the reunion or something. It's crazy.
Right.
Talk about movies. Have you watched any movies, or are you more of like just a series, watching series?
Oh, listen, I'm probably like the biggest movie guru that there is. I love movies. I haven't. Okay, so Maleficent just came out. I have to go see Maleficent.
Yep.
I still haven't. I haven't seen the Joker yet. I want to see that.
I haven't either.
I've heard everything about the Joker. I've heard so many good reviews about the Joker. I really want to go see that. What else? What else is out? But I watch so many movies. Like I'll go back and I'll watch like Liar, Liar. I love Bridesmaids. Like funny movies. I love Nutty Professor. I like action movies.
Okay.
So a lot of action movies. I love Tyler Perry's movies. And I'm also another show. I've been watching Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett, her mom, and her sister.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been watching that, and they had a recent episode with Alicia Keys, and I'm a huge fan of Alicia Keys. But I think Red Table Talk just needs to be an actual like show. Like it needs to be like an Oprah show. Almost.
It's only on Facebook?
It's only on Facebook.
That's crazy.
It's only on, but it's so good. Like everything, all the topics that they talk about are actually very, very interesting. Mm-hmm. But believe it or not, a lot of people really tune into it. I just wish that they would take it to another level.
Yeah. I know. Go ahead and snatch that up, Oprah, huh?
Right. You got all this money. Take it.
Go on and snatch it.
Right.
Dang.
Oh, and somebody said on Instagram, Gemini Man.
Gemini.
With Will Smith.
Oh, yeah. His new movie?
Gemini Man. I want to see that. But I don't know if it's coming out here, though.
Oh, I saw the trailer. It looked real good.
It does. It looks really good.
So speaking of Halloween, though, do you like scary movies? Or are you like watch scary movies in October and never and no other part of the year?
I can say when I tell you there has been only one scary movie, quote unquote scary movie that I watched, and it was more funny than scary. Mm-hmm. It the very first It, that was more funny than it was scary.
Okay.
And I thought I was gonna be scared like out of nowhere, but it wasn't even really that scary. It was more kind of like ew, you know. It was like ew, and it was funny. But I don't really watch. I'm not really into scary movies like that. I'm just not a fan of them.
Okay.
I'm just not a fan of them.
You scared, or you just like
No, I just never can really get into like scary movies like that. I understand like the anticipation of what you think is gonna happen and something else happens. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm not scared of them. I'm just not into those type of movies at all.
Okay. Well, cool. Those are all the questions I have for you. You want to give any shout outs to anybody, any last remarks to any basketball players that are looking up to you and that can relate to you and will relate to you?
I can honestly say that, and my mom said this to me the other day, and she was like, just because your name is not seen in headlights right now doesn't mean that the people still don't see you. And for the people who have not seen me, because I get questions all the time, man, where you been?
Yeah.
You know, like where you been at? What are you doing? And I can say I feel like I've been hidden because there's a lot of things that I've been working on within myself to better myself, not even just on the court but off the court. So it's kind of like I gotta focus on that to make myself better in order to share with the rest of the world who I really am. And sometimes you have to take that time to yourself. So one thing I can say to the athletes that look up to me, I can say there's nothing wrong with taking time to yourself and figuring out, man, what is my drive? Like what drives me to continue to play the sport that I play? What is my why? What is my why with this? And sometimes it may take a moment where you say, okay, I may not even want to play. I may not even want to play with this. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's one thing to do, because when you get to college, you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm away from my family. I can do whatever I want. But there's just going to be a time where you're going to have to sit and you're going to be like, okay, I got to get my stuff together. I got to make sure my head is right, because if your head's not right, your body's not going to follow and you're not going to be able to perform. So being able to take time to yourself, one, put God first, you come second, and everybody else comes third. Okay. Sometimes when you put yourself last, you forget about who you really are and trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
That not everybody is supposed to be in your circle. You're not supposed to please everybody. Yeah. And when you do that, you forget who you really are to make everybody else happy. And then you lose your happiness in the midst of all of that. And I don't think anybody should do that. So that's definitely something I could give away to them. And then just always hard. Like, you never go wrong working hard, and you don't have to prove yourself all the time, but make sure the only person that you need to be proven to is you. Your worst enemy is you. Your worst enemy is you. It's in you. Like you're working against yourself. You're not working against the next person. You're working against yourself to make yourself better. Period.
Okay. Well, Meighan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for staying up till 4:00 over there in Israel, a.m.
With my throat being dry.
I thank you. I thank you for sharing your experience and smile and your advice to all these babies that we got to get right and help out in the basketball community, and just all athletes all together, you know.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
I can't say, athletes, if you watching this, if y'all ever have questions, I'm always open to answer people's questions. You can follow me on Instagram. Anything that you just want to know, like you need help, because we need people out there, especially helping these young girls, that we have to be able to have that door just to be open, to give them the opportunity to ask questions if they don't know something, or if they're not in the right mind to ask either their parents. They can come and they can ask me or ask anybody else. But I'm always open for people who need advice. And I'm always open for that. Always.
Okay. You want to share your social media handles, any of those that you want to people to reach out to you on?
My IG is Meighan Simmons 3, MEIG Simmons 3. Twitter, I don't really get on like that, but my Twitter handle is at Meighan_Simmons. But you guys can hit me up at any time. Like I said, I'm always open. I really don't have a lot to do during the day besides like when I'm working, and even when I am, I'm always open to respond. I always have my phone with me. So.
Okay. All right, man. Thank you so much for jumping on.
You're welcome, man.
And I can't wait to do this again because I'm calling you back in. I'm gonna have the Zoom figured out. I'm gonna have it figured out. I promise.
Hey, listen, Lord willing, you got this Zoom together.
Yes.
Go over there, technology challenge.
And I work at Dale. It's crazy. All right, man. All right.
All right. You too.